Many stories exist of what is considered by some researchers of the Bigfoot phenomena, close encounters with the supposed legend. In the past several decades, many of the stories of the creature can be sourced from the descendants of the first Aboriginal people of North America, passed down through stories and anecdotes by tribal elders and storytellers. Like in other countries, this has been a very common fact, and the first inhabitants of these particular areas around the world are keepers of these legends and stories. Within the last 60 years, events have happened related to the Bigfoot enigma, which have been documented, and at times are very intriguing. These strange events can make any wonder, is the Bigfoot species still roaming the many isolated areas which can be found around the world? Although in current times, thousands of reports, stories and anecdotes do exist on the Bigfoot phenomena, one particular story, which few people know about, is told in a non-fiction book called The Long Walk, publisher The Lions Press, 1997, written by Slavomir Rawicz. The book is about his terrifying escape from a Soviet labor camp in 1941 Russia. Rawicz was a Polish national and prisoner of war. At the time of his escape with others, this unconventional adventure would take him through China, the Gobi Desert, Tibet, and over the Himalayas into British India. In this difficult trek, he would encounter a pair of strange creatures, which to Rawicz would be forever engraved as one of the most significant memory of his terrible ordeal to reach freedom. What you're about to hear are excerpts from Slavomir Rawicz's book, The Long Walk. The story gives amazing details of the creatures he encountered.
In all our wanderings through the Himalayan region, we have encountered no other creatures than man, dog, and sheep. It was with quickening interest, therefore, that in the early stages of our descent of this last mountain, Polymenos drew our attention to two moving black specks against the snow, about a quarter of a mile away below us. We thought of animals and immediately of food, but as we set off down to investigate, we had no great hopes that they would await our arrival. The contours of the mountain temporarily hid them from view as we approached nearer. But when we halted on the edge of a bluff, we found they were still there, 12 feet or so below us and about 100 yards away. 2 points struck me immediately. They were enormous, and they walked on their hind legs. The picture is clear in my mind, fixed there indelibly by a solid 2 hours of observation. We just could not believe what we saw at first. We stayed to watch. Somebody talked about dropping down to their level to get a close-up view. Sato said, "It looks strong enough to eat us." We stayed where we were. We weren't too sure of unknown creatures, which refused to run away at the approach of us. I set myself to estimating their height on the basis of my military training for artillery observation. They could not have been much less than 8 feet tall. One was a few inches taller than the other one, in the relation of the average man to average woman. They were shuffling quickly around on a flat shelf, which formed part of the obvious route for us to continue our descent. We thought that if we waited long enough, they would go away and clear the way for us. It was obvious they had seen us, and it was equally apparent they had no fear of us. The American said that eventually he was sure we should see them drop off all fours like bears, but they never did. Their faces I could not see in detail, but their heads were scarish and their ears must lie close to the skull, because there was no projection from the silhouette against the snow. The shoulders slowed sharply down to powerful chest. The arms were long, and the wrists reached the level of the knees. Seen in profile, the back of their head was straight, lying from the crown into the shoulders, like a damp Russian. We decided unanimously that we were examining a type of creature which we had no previous experience in the wild. in zoos or literature, it would have been easy to have seen them waddle off at a distance and dismiss them as either bear or big ape of the orangutan species. At close range, they defied description. There was something both of the bear and the ape about their general shape, but they could not be mistaken for either. The color was a rusty kind of brown. They appeared to be covered by two distinct kinds of hair. The reddish hair which gave them their characteristic color, forming a tight, close fur against the body, including mingling with which were long, loose, straight hairs hanging downwards, which had a slight grayish tinge as the light caught them. Dangling our feet over the edge of the rock, we came closely under observation for about an hour. They were doing nothing but moving slowly together, occasionally stopping to look around them, like people admiring a view. Their heads turned towards us now and again, for their interest in us seemed to be the slightest. Then Saro stood up. We can't wait all day for them to make up their minds to move. I'm going to ship them. He went off into a pantomime of arm waving, Red Indian war dancing, bawling and shrieking. The things did not even turn. Saro scratched around and came up with half a dozen pieces of ice about a quarter-inch thick. One after another, he pitched them down towards the pair, but they skimmed erratically and lost direction. One missile kicked up a little powder of snow about 20 yards from them, but if they saw it, they gave no sign. Saro sat down again, panting. We gave them another hour, but they seemed content to stay where they were. I got the uncomfortable feeling that they were challenging us to continue a descent across their ground. I think they are laughing at us, says Saro. Mr. Smith stood up. It occurs to me that they might take it into their heads to come up and investigate us. It is obvious that they're not afraid of us. I think we had better go while we are safe. We pushed off around the rock and directly away from them. I looked back at the pair who were standing still, arms swinging slightly, as though listening intently. What were they? For years they remained a mystery to me, but since recently I have read of scientific expeditions to discover the abominable snowmen of the Himalayas and studied descriptions of the creatures given by native hillmen. I believe that the five of us that day may have met two of the animals. If so, I think the recent estimates of their height as about 5 feet is wrong. The creatures we saw must have been at least 7 feet.
Many anecdotal stories exist of encounters with what we now consider descriptions of Bigfoot or Yeti-like creatures. If Slavomir Rawicz's account of his encounter in the Himalayas is true, it gives one of the most common characteristics of the creature, its ability to walk on its rear legs. One important thing to note, the events of Polish officers being arrested and sent to Russian labor camps in 1941 did happen, and based on official records found, Rawicz was one of them, but the validity of his supposed escape has been put to question. The reports of the creature, known as the Yeti, in the mountain regions of the Asian continent are not unusual, even in recent times. Slavomir Rawicz's story may have holes in certain unverifiable information, yet his book has been published in several languages, and others that have looked into his story have found conflicting information of his supposed escape from the Russian labor camp. What has not been confirmed are the other members who were with him. One person did come forward, claiming the story of what happened to Rawicz was actually based on their encounter, and not Rawicz, as he claims. Like with many stories related to Bigfoot, or in this case the Yeti phenomena, all we have to go by are the stories and details related in them. Unless Rawicz used knowledge of areas he read about or was told about by others, he either made up the story, or he used the legends about the Yeti from the hillmen of the Himalayas to give a fantastical edge to his already incredible story. Slavomir Rawicz passed away in 2004. His story is filled with more questions than answers, which unfortunately, he took to his grave. One very interesting point from Rawicz's amazing story is his descriptions of the creatures as having traits similar to bears and orangutans, if we take into account the current finding by British geneticist Dr. Bryan Sykes of the possible existence of an unknown bear. This could be one possible answer to the Yeti mystery. Could the escapees and Slavomir Rawicz have encountered two of these unusual bears, which can stay standing and walk on their hind legs? Dr. Bryan Sykes, in a recent interview, said he plans to put together the funds for an expedition to search for this yet-to-be-discovered species of bear, which DNA was discovered from samples supposedly belonging to the legendary creatures, Bigfoot and Yeti. In this quest for answers, new discoveries are being brought to light, and creatures that were once myths are now close to becoming scientific facts.